Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, my name is Nabila Rizkyariani. Today, we'll be talking about the 5 podcasts that I listened and what are the messages that I get from those 5 podcasts. Now, the topic of the podcast that I listened, basically, the thread was about life hacks, or should I say tips on running our lives. Okay, now let's get to the first podcast. Now, the first podcast was about Life Will Hurt by Motivational Podcasts. I heard from the speaker itself that his mother died and he didn't have a chance or gain and receive love from his own mother. The person that allows himself to be born in this world. So, in his life, he didn't have any advices from his mom. He felt like his life during that time, he didn't receive the love and has no support, made him feel down and feel unsupportive. But because he also always remember that life only comes once in this world, he eventually start work hard towards himself, towards his life, because he's responsible towards himself and he must be independent on what will happen in the future beyond. And I like that podcast because it allows ourselves that anything that we see that has difficulties, sometimes it made us realize that the pain that we receive aren't as painful as what other receive. The people who suffer sometimes are in above the sufferness of ours. So when there is a time that we always struggle and feel that this is the most painful pain that we receive, always remember that there are people out there who still work hard that has the pain 10 times than ours. Now, the second one is Next Level Mindset, of course, by Motivational Podcast again. Now, from this, he also mentioned to himself that he lost his mom, he lost his dad in an early age. And of course, that is a different or rare case that happened towards a life term where we, in fact, most people still have their mom and dad beside them to give them advice, to tell them that this is the right path, this is the wrong path, this is how you become successful, this is how you will lose or regret your life at the end. He was by himself, no one was beside him. His loved ones that were very close to him start to disappear suddenly. And so all that leaves is by himself. Now, he said that he can actually create a relationship, create love. Although he also remembers that if we want to create a family, a couple, you must, of course, build yourself, make yourself as a good figure towards the children, as a good figure towards the people that is going to continue their life, because this lifestyle, this generation flows all the time. Although who will continue the years after? That is, of course, the young generation that we have already shaped. And when we shape them, we are going to give them marks. And will they continue the good marks on the future? And that is our obligation, to make them become a good person and a good picture towards not only the family, but also the world. Now, the third podcast is How to Set annual goals by manager tools. Although the very inspiring thing that I got from their words is that they said if we set our goals in the present, it will give us at least 7% increasement or improvement. But if we imagine ourselves placed in the goal itself, we are already in the goal. Then there is, in fact, more improvement. There are like 70 times more improvement than that 7%. There are a larger scale amount improvement or some increasement that we will gain from our goals in the present. Why? Because when the moment you are standing in the goal or on the position itself, if you already imagine standing in that goal, and then you flash back, you look at the past of how to get that goal itself, it is 5 times more easier than imagining the goal of how to reach there. So it's like looking down, but in fact, a more clearer way. And of course, not all people know this. Not all people know this way. They always tend to create their goals. And in fact, if they didn't gain that goal, they'll go to a next goal and they carry on so by so. But sometimes when you are in that dream and you are satisfied and you're happy standing in that dream, there are times that we are going to set another goal and we are holding that role from the goal that we are holding. As an example, so from this manager tool, it's basically about being a good manager. But as a youth, as a student, imagine you want to gain your goal as a doctor. So when you imagine yourself already becoming a doctor, you have to think, what will I do next? What is my obligation afterwards? Am I just going to help patients or where will I help the humanity? Okay, so in the fourth podcast is about a 75-year study reveals the secret to happiness by the mindset mentor. Okay. Now they said that research find from the youth that their goal of happiness is to become rich and famous. And of course, if that implement to myself, I also had a goal of that. So when you become rich and famous, you think that the people or the star figures out there have lots of enjoyment and they are satisfied from what they are. But what they never knew is they are still suffering like us. They still have this pain behind them that is carrying them and are afraid on standing in the famous or rich position, because when they go down and drop from their position or their richness, that's when things turn 180 degrees down and upside down. So the best way to find happiness is to create real relationship with people, with your friends, with your family. Not on the amount, not on the quantity of how much friends you have, but the quality, the friends that is qualified, that allows and gives you power instead of crushing you down. So gain the positivity and throw the negativity. Now, the last podcast or the fifth podcast is an extra degree in your daily life by Kwik Brain with Jim Kwik. Now, in this daily lives, the things that you want to create it is the way you treated your brain. He's a such mentor brain that I like. So we must understand first that there are certain situation and condition where our brain or our heart is willing to work hard and study. And when we have that situation, we have that moment, that we have to use it hardly. We have to use it very deeply and self-study in it. He also said that if you want to study, there are studies, if you study alone, it makes you gain things faster. But if you want to be further, if you want to gain the studies furthermore, then that's where you study along with the people, with the society. And so treating your brain means that you have to train your brain every day. The more you train your brain, the more you become stronger, the more it gives you a position. It gives you a power towards the people that sometimes you can also use it. And people will believe in you if you have that certain power. But remember to use the power in a good way, not in a bad way. Okay, so I think that's all that I can say from my 5 podcasts that I have already gained the thread of it. And thank you very much for listening and watching to this YouTube video. And I'll end this by saying wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye.